about what he is hearing on Capitol Hill. And we get more now on that breaking news. The U.S. Supreme Court has ruled against President Trump's sweeping tariffs. And joining us now is Mitchell Miller with WTOP. Mitchell, thank you so much for being with us in our break. I said, what a quiet Friday for us.
Not anymore.
No, not anymore. And first, let's just get into the first thing. You know, developing this afternoon, we want to talk about that big ruling from the Supreme Court that most of President Trump's tariffs are illegal. Many legal experts expected this decision. The president not happy about this. What action do you believe comes next from here?
Well, it's really interesting. And of course, in his news conference, we heard the anger from the president saying he's absolutely ashamed, actually, of what some of the justices have done. Keep in mind that 2 of those justices were nominated by him that voted against the tariffs. Now, he is claiming that he can use a different type of provision that will impose a 10% around the world tariff. We'll have to see how that plays out. But what I thought was interesting from a congressional standpoint is he can go to Congress and actually try to get something done. But when he was asked about that at the news conference, he basically brushed it off and said, well, I could go that route, but he said it takes too long. And so he's again trying to utilize the executive order type of route.
Yeah, and talking about Congress, you know, could you see this ruling have an impact on lawmakers in terms of how they view the president's power and authority?
Yeah, I think there's been a long time effort here in Congress to reassert the power and the authority of lawmakers. And many Republicans are quietly not really in favor of tariffs, but they keep their mouths shut because they know this is the president's policy. What's interesting is that there have been some Republicans today, including Senator Bernie Moreno of Ohio, who say, look, we can bring this up on the Senate floor. We can put this in a reconciliation bill that Republicans could pass on their own in the Senate. However, while that could be taking place, there are many in the House who don't really know if that could take place. Keep in mind that just a few weeks ago, the House actually broke ranks with the president, and 6 Republicans joined Democrats in voting for a measure that lifted or would lift tariffs on Canada. So there is some unease here in Congress, especially this being a midterm election. A lot of moderate Republicans and also some conservatives who just don't like tariffs, including former Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, have indicated that they're okay with the High Court's decision.
I mean, yeah, this just feels like a mess because we know there's just a lot of money on the table. What does this mean for businesses, for all of us everyday people? What happens next?
Well, I think that a lot of lawmakers are going to be talking to each other over the next few days, trying to figure out what is their next step. The House Speaker, Mike Johnson, as well as the Senate Majority Leader John Thune, have indicated that they are okay with the tariffs and that they want to help out the president in any way possible. What's really going to be interesting is what happens in this coming week. Of course, we have the State of the Union address. You're going to have the president looking right down at many of the justices who just made this decision. So that will be a politically theatrical moment. But then the lawmakers have to decide, how are they going to move forward? Are they going to do something like a reconciliation bill? And then, of course, on top of that, what are they going to do to end this partial government shutdown in connection with the stalemate over Homeland Security?
Yeah, let's get right into that. The other piece of this Capitol Hill puzzle with you here today, Mitchell, the partial government shutdown on its 7th day. Congress does not return from recess until next week. Why does it seem or feel like there's a lack of urgency here to get this deal done?
Yeah, this has been a very surreal week here at the Capitol. You have Congress just not in session at all, and every day we move forward on this partial government shutdown, and it looks like both sides are just kind of content to wait this out. They both feel that they are pretty strong in their respective positions. Democrats are going to continue to push for these reforms to ICE and the Border Patrol, but at some point, something is going to have to give in the coming week. There has been discussion of possibly parsing out parts of this legislation, taking things like FEMA, TSA, Coast Guard, and trying to fund those separately as they try to work out these differences over the reforms to ICE and the Border Patrol. But right now, there just doesn't seem to be any appetite for that. So this will be the first time probably that we've ever had a president give his State of the Union address while part of the federal government was actually shut down.
Wow, historic in for sure one major way there. I mean, when we're zeroing in on this and the reason for this, ICE still has plenty of money from the big beautiful bill passed last year, but you mentioned maybe pulling out some of these other entities. What are some of the other ways we might start seeing the impacts of this partial shutdown, Mitchell?
Yeah, I think what's going to happen is likely what we've seen in past shutdowns. We're going to get to the point at the end of this month where TSA workers, FEMA workers, a lot of these workers will have not been paid, and that starts to build the pressure on some of these agencies, particularly TSA. We have seen in the past more than 1,000 TSA workers during that long government shutdown, the longest ever last year, actually just got out of the agency at that point, and that of course put pressure on the airports, on travel, and then we're going to be getting into the spring travel season. So I think if it's still going on by the end of the month, that's where we're going to see the real pressure point that something will have to be done by lawmakers.
Okay, so we're going to keep an eye on this for sure. WTOP's Mitchell Miller, thank you so much for joining us. Just keeping tabs on everything we should be watching for next week and in the following weeks.